an original MCM production.
Hello, my name is LaToya Sykes, and I'm your host for the MATA Community Media 2016 election interview. My guest today is Megan Holman, and she is a candidate for the 14th Aldermanic District. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So we want to just get started and ask a couple questions of you so that we can share that with the voting public. So please state the district you're running to represent and the geographical boundaries for me.
Absolutely. So I am running to represent the 14th Aldermanic District, which is primarily composed of the Bayview area, but it actually stretches through parts of several other neighborhoods in the city, including Lincoln Village, Polonia, Ohio Park, and Tippecanoe.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's north to about Lincoln or Bay in most places.
Okay.
West in some areas, only to 6th Street, in other areas all the way to 15th, and south to Morgan or Howard.
It's always interesting trying to maneuver through those boundaries.
Yes.
So what do you see as some positive accomplishments that have happened in your district?
You know, most people, I think these days, when they think about Bayview, they think about a really exciting up-and-coming neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And that is definitely true in the area of Kinnickinnick, KK Avenue, and the intersection with Lincoln and Howell right there. There, are a tremendous number of restaurants and shops and excitement in that area. We have a business improvement district there that's done a great job. Okay. What I find as a parent, I actually have 4 sons, is that one of the things that really drives people to our neighborhood is not just that business district, but the really excellent housing stock, the proximity to the lake, and the fact that we have just tremendous elementary schools in the neighborhood, just some of the best schools in all of MPS. Okay. So it brings people to the neighborhood, which then, they're creative, entrepreneurial people that then open those amazing businesses. Exactly. And also, fuel our neighborhood association and events like Chill on the Hill.
Mm-hmm. Good. So as you look at your community and you think about the population that you currently serve, what do you see as your community needs? What's needed in your district?
Well, if we're talking just about Bayview, which is, I would say about 40% of the district, there is a need to balance that really vibrant development on KK Avenue with, what is primarily a residential, family-oriented district. There is a lot of chatter amongst neighbors about are we developing too much too quickly? Okay. And who is the development for? Is it for long-term residents or a number of new apartment buildings that have come in? And how do we make sure that we are meeting the needs of all of the different folks who live in the neighborhood, no matter what stage of life they're in? If they're pushing a stroller or if they're seniors who are trying to age in their home, there's a lot of different kind of folks. Meanwhile, the further you get from the KK bid, the more folks I think are concerned. They haven't had the same kind of attention to their development. They, there's a real need for the same kind of aldermanic love throughout the district.
Mm. I definitely get that, and I think it's important to note what all of your constituency is looking for, not just certain areas. So as you think about that, has there been any recent losses of businesses in your district, that have spanned through different areas that are not the normal areas that are targeted?
Well, there's there's been a lot of growth of businesses, but they've been these entertainment sort of nightlife businesses. Okay. There's a lot of groaning in our community when another tattoo parlor opens. Not that we're Milwaukee, we love our tattoos. But there's also a call, especially for some of those business owners, saying we need more business diversity, so people are coming here for a lot of different reasons and engaged with our community for different reasons. But outside of the KK bid area, there are a lot of empty storefronts. There are a lot of storefronts that have been taken over for people for housing because it's an interesting area to live, and landlords find that they can get a dependable tenant through turning a storefront into an apartment, which isn't really what they're zoned for. It isn't
Right.
really what the intention is, and so we've had a lot of spot zoning issues that we need to look at. And then there's folks. I was knocking on doors today, going door to door, talking to voters on 14th Street, which is the very southwestern corner of the district.
Okay.
And what was really interesting, the woman I was talking to there, she was pointing out a number of vacant houses on her street in various state of disrepair. Meanwhile, it is a lovely little residential community that's 1 block away from the business district on 13th Street, 2 blocks away from a hospital. They have lovely elementary schools. It's a great neighborhood. And we talked about sort of the carrot versus the stick approach to dealing with the housing on that street. Do you want to fine absentee owners until they eventually decide to give up those properties? Or do you find a way to induce them to participate in different city programs and perhaps, sell them, rent them, get them back into the property pipeline? And then we also talked a little bit about how to promote the neighborhood when it doesn't have as much of an identity as some of the other parts of the district, and about perhaps meeting with realtors and saying, look at this, you've got very affordable, very safe housing in a lovely family-oriented neighborhood. Let's talk about the amenities here and get some young families in here and turn this block around.
So I'll back up just a second. So when you talked about some of the businesses that are opening in your community now, what could you do to change the dynamic of the businesses that are there so that it's more diverse?
Well, I think that there's a need to take, I think, a pause in what is going on in our neighborhood, because we have a number of large housing projects that are coming in.
Okay.
And we need to see how that influx of new Bay viewers is going to drive the demand for the different businesses that are already there, and what ideas those folks bring with them in terms of being entrepreneurs. We have some warehouses already that have turned into spaces that incubate smaller businesses. We could probably stand to do more of that.
Okay.
And as we get more people working in those buildings and looking for places to go out to lunch, but also looking for places where they can run errands over lunchtime, we will hope to see more of a driver of those daytime businesses that really sort of keep a neighborhood bustling, not just a bar close.
Okay.
But one of the things that I talk about a lot on the campaign is that aldermanic races tend to be very parochial, and you wind up talking with people about the concerns, in one business district or another, and those are important. Don't get me wrong; it's incredibly important, but after sitting on the MPS school board and working in the nonprofit community for a long time, I spend just as much time really worried about our neighbors. And I think that part of the reason why we have sort of become a niche area that really only has certain kind of businesses and everything is because our city as a whole really hasn't recovered from the recession. I don't know if it recovered from the recession before that in 2001. And people are hurting, and they don't have a lot of disposable income. They don't have a lot of free time because people are working too many jobs. And I'm really interested in working, with my future colleagues on the Common Council and with the mayor to get the city back on track, because I think that economic development across the city is the key towards economic development for every mom and pop shop in my neighborhood.
So you mentioned earlier that you have 4 sons. So I'm interested to hear a little bit more about Megan and how long you've lived in the district, and as a resident, what prompted you to take this step to run for office?
So I moved to Bayview almost 10 years ago now. It'll be 10 years in June. And actually, prior to that, I was living in Boston, which is where I grew up.
Oh.
Yeah, and we came here because of extended family, but also because it seemed like a great place to start a business and raise a family and all the things that we know can be really true about Milwaukee. And also, my children's grandmother is an MPS teacher, an MPS Montessori teacher.
Okay.
And we were hoping that they would also be able to attend MPS Montessori schools, which they do. And it was my involvement in the nonprofit work and at my son's school that prompted me to seek a seat on the school board 5 years ago.
Okay.
And I served 1 term on the school board, which ended last year, and 2 years as the board vice president.
Oh.
Which was a tremendous honor. And I just loved that work. I loved taking the lessons that I had learned in the public sector and with different agencies around the city, and just trying to make a better day for 70,000 kids and 10,000 employees. It's humbling. It's humbling to be one of 9 people sitting over $1 billion budget and trying to figure out what the best thing is to do with those resources. But I really, when I had to decide whether or not to take another 4-year term on the school board, I was feeling that sense of powerlessness that I think that sometimes we all have about the city. You get tired of seeing us at the bottom of all these lists of, that this isn't a great place to raise a child for a lot of families. And, we're the poorest and we're the most segregated and, have the largest educational disparities. And my kids are only going to be young once, and their friends are only going to be young once. And I have a sense of urgency that we need to get things done for this city. And I don't feel that energy reverberating from City Hall, and I definitely don't feel it reverberating from my opponent. So, I want to be there and make some generational changes that gets the city back on the right track.
Good. So thinking of generational changes,
Yeah.
what will you do to make your district better? Like, what can your constituency expect of your performance in this particular office?
Yeah. Well, the very first and most, sort of important responsibility I think of an alderperson is to be responsive. You need to make sure that you answer the phone calls, you take care of people's problems, interacting with the bureaucracies that we've created in City Hall, and so that they're able to get their licenses, so they're able to get their businesses off the ground, but also so that their street lights stay on and their trash gets picked up. And that, in many cases, that's a really solid proportion of the work. But what's great about that work is that also, it tells you what your neighbors are feeling and thinking and doing. And you have to take those concerns and take them back to the department heads and say, hey, I'm hearing a lot of problems about this area. What could we be doing more efficiently? How are other cities doing this better than we're doing it? We authorized an office with an MPS of accountability and efficiency that went all throughout the district, sort of breaking down processes and saying, we're not doing this so well. How can we save some money? How can we do this leaner? How can we do this greener? And we need to bring that same kind of attention to City Hall. We've got a smaller workforce than before. A lot of people have retired, and we've got a chance, I think, to freshen up the way that we look at things in City Hall. There are a lot of young people running for council seats right now. I hope that after April 5th, there's going to be more than one woman on our Common Council. And I think, we could see a really exciting new day for Milwaukee government.
So, one last go. Why don't you tell me why you think you'd be the best candidate for this seat? Why do you think you should win? And why would a voter vote for you ultimately?
I get asked that a lot of times a day because I'm always talking to people. And I think that the answer comes down to the fact that I love nothing more than being part of a team. And seeing the council as a team, city government as a team, and just sort of the ability to work with people rather than sort of sitting back and saying, this is the way I think they should be. No, I want to talk to you and hear about what your hopes and dreams are and what's going to make you start a business in Milwaukee. What's going to make your kids want to raise their kids here? Because that's ultimately the question is, where does Milwaukee go 10, 20, 30 years from now? And that answer is not reliant on one person's vision or 15 people's visions in the Common Council. It's incumbent upon all of us to have those conversations. So we need to, figure out how we share a vision of where Milwaukee goes and how we get out of, some of the just the really negative lists that we're on and back to a place where people, feel really confident about raising a family here.
Great. Well, Megan, I thank you for your time today.
Of course.
For telling us a little bit more about who you are and your campaign. And I wish you well.
Thank you.
So thank you, our listening audience, for being a part of Matta's Community Media 2016 election interviews. Again, my name is LaToya Sykes, and I'm your guest host for today with our candidate, Megan Holman, for the 14th Aldermanic District. Have a great day.
MCM production.